Dynasty Podcast. We are back after a brief hiatus. Frank's computer did not want to cooperate with us, so we were out for a little bit. But we are back. It's myself, JT, joined by Frank and Lounis. We are heading into preseason week 3 for those who are watching. So we're kind of in the thick of it. We do have some brief news and notes to go over, but we also do want to get through our over-unders on the week. So I don't know who wants to take this first topic, but I'll pass it off to you guys first. There's some drama going on.
What, with Jonathan Taylor? Are we going into that?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of cool with whatever. I was also trying to pull up the doc, for being quite honest.
I mean, it's just been a little bit of a weird offseason for Jonathan Taylor, but the general reaction I've seen right now from Twitter is that if he does get moved, this is just a net benefit for Jonathan Taylor stocks, because you're just most likely going to an offense that's significantly better, or at least just going to score more points than the Colts.
Yeah, I agree. That's a big thing. Just like going to an offense that's going to have more scoring opportunities. I don't know if like how much do we kind of call bullshit on that like asking price? Because I don't think
what was the asking price?
He asked for around the same value of a first. If it's not a first, it would have to be like similar to what did the 49ers give up for McCaffrey? They gave up like a second,
They gave up a lot. But yeah, they gave up like a second, third, and fourth, something like that.
I'll tell you exactly what they gave up. They gave up geez, right. I don't want the grade, I want the actual trade. His second.
What was the grade? What was the grade? I want to hear the grade.
C-. 49ers received a C- grade for the deal. Carolina earned an A-.
Wait, who got the C- in that?
49ers got C-.
C-, by the way.
Yeah.
C-.
Carolina got the A-. And it was a 2023 second, third, and fourth, and a 5th round selection in 2024. Wonder.
Yeah.
You got the.
Do we think Jonathan Taylor gets a bigger return than that?
No, dude, no way. No way.
I was gonna say also, like, I don't even think they're gonna get that kind of return, because CMC had a couple years left on his deal. I think he's just a more dynamic running back than Jonathan Taylor, as good as Jonathan Taylor is. And like, yeah, pretty much with the contract, if you're trading for him, he's probably gonna ask for what, like 14 mil per on his next deal. I think I saw that somewhere, but like I feel like that's a pretty safe assumption.
Well, the other problem is that if you trade for Taylor without a deal already worked out, then what? You're going to trade
for 1 year of him.
Yeah, okay, let's just cut out a third, and you do that trade that the 49ers did. So you bump up that C- a little bit. Maybe now we're at a B+. I think we're at least a B+. We cut out that third. Yeah, now he has all the leverage. You're going to trade half your fucking draft class and then not sign the guy for long term? No way.
Yeah. I'm looking at the draft tracker. That second round pick that the 49ers gave up for Christian McCaffrey was traded to Carolina, which was then traded to Chicago, which was then traded to Jacksonville. And it turned out to be Brenton Strange, tight end out of Penn State. So that's who.
C- for Brenton Strange.
That's
but no, I think it's more that was just a bad pick. Because I remember, like,
he hasn't even played yet. We could be talking about the next Gronk right now, right? We have no fucking idea.
But I remember when the draft, like our draft, was going on, and he was picked in the second round.
Do you guys know who the other player is? This one's more relevant in Dynasty. Darnell Washington. Third round. Darnell Washington was the third rounder, and then if I pull up the fourth rounder,
the best left tackle.
I swear, I hope it's another tight end.
That'd be very funny if it was 3 tight ends. No, Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin.
Oh, dude, he's on the Steelers. He's been going crazy in the preseason.
Yeah,
I'm excited about him. Dude, Steelers, the 2 D-line guys that they picked up are looking pretty nice, and that's exactly what we needed. You guys want to get into these over-unders? We have 2 divisions to go
real
through.
Quick, last thing on Jonathan Taylor, I guess. What realistic team are you hoping he goes to? That is the most beneficial fantasy-wise.
Okay, hoping, I don't want him on the Dolphins because I'm a Patriots fan, but I think beneficial fantasy-wise, I think it's the Dolphins.
I'm with you on that.
I think it'd be really cool if like an A-Chain Jonathan Taylor swap happened. I just think that would be really fun for
as part of the draft
for just like the dynasty landscape. It would be a fun move to happen.
And last thing, is there any Colts running back you want?
Okay, well, I think that what's his name? Zach Moss actually looked pretty decent at the end of last year. Issue is,
I agree he's the one to have. I don't know when he's going to be back from injury.
Well, yeah, there's that. I think like early-ish in the season. But
it was a broken arm, right?
Yeah, it's like a break. They said like week 2, week 3. He should
so he'll be back pretty early.
But I'm not sure I want to give up a third for him because a third feels a little expensive. Yeah, if I could, pick him up at face value or wherever the startup price is, that's a little bit better. But a third round pick feels a little hefty for him.
I probably wouldn't want it. I wouldn't trade a third round pick for any running back on that team if Jonathan Taylor gets traded, assuming they don't get something like in your hypothetical scenario an A-Chain back. Because I think it's just going to be a dead even committee with Anthony Richardson stealing a lot of the goal line touchdowns, which is going to be very.
Well, could I still think that one of those veterans will be in play, especially if they trade Taylor, right? At least just give.
Oh yeah, like a Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, there's Fournette, Hunt, who was visiting the Colts, right? From what it feels like, the Colts are very much just going to wait and see what happens with Jonathan Taylor and then sign the veteran back. I think that's why we saw Hunt not sign with New Orleans, because they kind of already have a deal in place, and Hunt can still just kind of chill around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised Leonard Fournette. I guess he's just probably trying to outweight the market too.
Who do you guys think is more watched between Fournette or Hunt?
I'm going to go with Fournette, but I also think that might be part of his strategy because you have to remember this is a long season. Like if you're Leonard Fournette and you're trying to ring chase, you might want to just wait until halfway through the year. A contender loses a back, a contender's running back that is young that they expected to be good's playing like shit. One of those kinds of scenarios. We almost see it like every year. It's usually the Rams with McVay, but it could be anyone, right? Where they sign that veteran back halfway through the season in the playoffs. And I actually think that would suit Leonard Fournette better because Leonard Fournette on half a year with his type of play style at this age, I do think could be really good. Whereas Leonard Fournette, that downhill just crashing into people's style at this point in his career for an entire year is rough.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I mean, I'm down to get into the over-unders now if you guys are.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
Is there anything else to touch on? JT, your boy got declared starter.
Baker, yeah. I mean,
I don't really have
I never really took that competition seriously. I was not worried about Kyle Trask being him out. I will say he's got one of the best receiving rooms in the league. Obviously not better than like the, Bengals or Eagles or whatever, Chargers, but like that's a good receiving room.
It's two like guys who went healthy normally put up 1,000 yards. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think has Mike Evans ever put under 1,000 yards?
No, that's actually a streak. He has still going back, even like more than just the NFL career, like going back to I think his last 2 years in college.
Yeah.
He's had 1,000 yards every single year.
What's going on, PVR? What's going on, Terrell Too Nice? Who's the best 3rd and 20 running back? Does that mean like who's our RB1? Because for me, that's Bijan before he even walks on the field.
I think we all agree on Bijan being RB1. Who would you guys RB2 be? I think that's probably the bigger debate. In which case, it's hard for me. I know my 2 and 3 are Breece Hall and McCaffrey. I just don't know how I'd rank them.
Yeah, it's Breece Hall too for me. I think this year though you're gonna have to eat it because there is Dalvin Cook there and he is coming back from an injury. But yeah, it's Breece Hall.
See, the thing is, realistically, I want to say just McCaffrey and Saquon. because even though there's the age
You'd
thing,
have Saquon ahead of
so
Brees Hall.
here's the problem, right? Obviously, if you're not a team that's a contender, you don't want Saquon, you don't want McCaffrey. They're just heavily depreciating assets. But if this is just I am picking a vanilla running back, right? I think McCaffrey and Saquon are just dominant type players, right? McCaffrey literally scores the most fucking points of a running back to play the game. So,
yeah,
I mean, that one's kind of a no-brainer if you're trying to win. And then Saquon, I think, is the next best blend of he still has a lot of time left and he's an insane talent.
That's fair. The Saquon one was a little CMC, I get more. I'd have Saquon still behind Brees Hall, though, but I understand it.
I like Brees Hall. Listen, he's my RB1 last year, 101, all that. But let's be real here. He is a Josh Jacobs type of player, not a Saquon type of player to me. Right? A type of at least prospect. And that's how I'm still treating it. Like, I think Brees Hall is great, but
that's fair.
I just don't think he's that safe yet to have all the way up there. All right, let's get into this.
All right, let's go.
So what do we got? The NFC West here? Any league winner thoughts? Wait, do we want to... What does that mean, league winner thoughts? Like, who are the best league winners to get?
Like a guy who's like, I guess the number one buy low.
I think Cooper Kupp is someone that on contender teams I've been looking to purchase. I've purchased him for a late first and a contender second, and I'm pretty happy with that deal. I think he's the type of player that profiles out to have at least another 2 years of high-end production. And for a first and a second, it's like if you're a real, because I was a real contender in that league, and I obviously still am. Like any future first I trade is probably towards the back half, but I was able to do 111 this year.
Trying to think of more, even like cheap. Everyone's kind of out on the Cardinals offense. I think Hollywood Brown is still, and we'll talk about him soon, but I think he's way too cheap for how good a receiver he is. And I also think Kyler is going to be back earlier in the season than people realize. Like, I think everyone was assuming not till like week 10. From what I've seen, seems like it, again, knock on wood, I don't know what it's going to be. Seems like it might be closer to like a week 5 type of thing. Like he might miss the first month, maybe another like week or 2 after that. But Hollywood Brown is someone that I like a lot, who I think is just way too cheap right now.
I'll do all positions. Wide receiver Hollywood Brown was one of mine. Deontay Johnson would be the other one, because I think it's just regression. He had no touchdowns last year. That's not going to be the case this year. He's still a target hog. Easy pick for Deontay. Running back, this one you kind of... There's 2 thoughts I have. Aaron Jones is still the starting running back in Green Bay, and he's running back 26. So that's one. The other one that I've been thinking about is Tank Bigsby, just simply because he's very talented. He's in a good spot. It's just that people are afraid of Etienne. But Etienne is someone who already had the Liz Frank injury, and if you've been with the podcast, you know how Jake talks about the Liz Frank injury and what that means. I think if Etienne were to go down, Tank Bigsby would definitely be a league winner, but that's like a
not even
contingent.
Yeah, not even just that. And I think Etienne's gonna have a huge year, but he's not like a 23 to 25 touch a game guy. And you know he's gonna get like a couple catches. So Bigsby's gonna get touches.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Etienne could be that kind of running back.
Like a 25 touch a game guy.
I do think he could be.
I just don't. I
receptions and carries.
I'm also taking into account that it's Doug Peterson as the coach.
I was gonna say, I think simply from game plan and everything, I just don't think they're going to use Etienne.
I think Etienne's gonna have a huge year, though. I'm really high on Etienne, and I have him like, I know we haven't done like our own personal dynasty rankings again this year, but I'd have him really high in my running back overall rankings.
I think Etienne's good. I don't think he's insane. I think he's one of those running backs that is he's so athletic and so quick that just bails him out a shit ton. But in terms of being a developed running back, I don't think he's towards the top of the league in that regard. But same thing with Kenneth Walker. But we'll see if they're able to keep developing. That's the issue, though, is that I just think that he's a product of volume to an extent.
I'm a little bit high, but I understand what you're saying. Plus, I mean, just that's an offense you want to invest in for both those guys.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. You look at some of those games the Jaguars had last year. Now there was a consistency issue, but there were so many games where Travis Etienne was getting 20 plus carries. Like there was a good amount of them. I'm pretty sure off the top of my head.
Okay, so that's running back position. Then tight end. It's just always Kyle Pitts
Tight
until
end.
it's not. It's always Kyle Pitts. I don't care if he's tight end too. He's the only guy that has that game breaking potential who's not old like Travis Kelce. It's Kyle Pitts. I mean, he's taken a big hit from where he was going originally, and that's fair because the Falcons don't pass the ball, and Desmond Ritter's not going to be a good quarterback. Or at least I don't think so. But at this point, he's priced like that. So if Desmond Ritter is somewhat of a capable quarterback, Kyle Pitts will win you leagues.
I'll give two more quick deep ones. Juwan Johnson on the Saints.
Yeah, that's a good call.
And Kenny Gainwell, before people realize that I've been following Eagles training camp. He's been ahead of Penny in first team reps. It's been mostly Swift and Gainwell.
I'm going to go with the other Saints tight end that doesn't actually play tight end, but he's listed as one. Taysom Hill's the cheapest tight end that you can actually start, unironically. I don't know. I don't really like a lot of the tight ends right now. So.
It's always shit. All right. Let's get into the NFC West.
All right. Over-unders. Kyler Murray is probably the easiest U of all time at QB 14.
He's just so underrated. It's almost...
When he was healthy playing, he was always viewed as kind of like a top 5 or 6 dynasty quarterback. And I know last season was kind of a disaster and everyone gets like the video game chokes off, but last season when he played, he was still a good fantasy quarterback.
I just don't think people have learned their lesson from Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it's a short lesson, but like Trevor Lawrence had, I'm just going to delete the Jake column for now. Trevor Lawrence had arguably one of the worst coaches of all time and has since bounced back and is now like a top 10 quarterback, top 7, I think at this point. Cliff Kingsbury was bad. All right. Yeah, I've been yelling that he was bad for years now. But I think they finally saw it. So is the Eagles the new, let's look at Eagles guy, Gannon? Is that who the head coach is?
It's as simple as this. Go look at his yards per game, passing and rushing, and then look at Lamar Jackson. And then ask why he's not a top 12 quarterback. Number 1 overall pick, still under the age of 27. Like, I don't know.
We've seen him have like top 5 finishes.
The thing is, this is not realistic. He's not QB 14 for anyone else.
I was going to say, if you try to buy him off someone, you're not getting that price.
Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is he's probably priced like in the general vicinity of Nick Chubb. I feel like if I offered Nick Chubb for Kyler straight up in these Superflex leagues, I would get laughed at.
Yeah.
I don't see. Well, let me see if I can pull up trades involving Kyler real quick just to.
I mean, the second, third, 20 league now it is 14 teams, but Lappy's wanted like 3 firsts.
Yeah. Oh, that is the thing. There have been kind of crazy trades involving Kyler Murray. I just wish I was in these leagues. So there's some realistic ones, right? Like Kyler Murray for 2 firsts. You don't know where the firsts are, 2024. Like that could be, for example, Caleb Williams. But then if I scroll down a little bit, I see Kyler Murray and Alvin Kamara. Now, keep in mind, these are Superflex leagues. Like this is filtered for Superflex 12-team leagues. Kyler Murray and Alvin Kamara for Devontae Smith. Like, what are we doing?
I would like to see, honestly, one would be awesome on this trade chart. If you could see how old the league is. I think that would be interesting.
This is like
you could filter by that.
Yeah.
Because that to me is a type of trade that is using one QB values. Right.
Yeah. We have Kyler and a first, 2024 first for Justin Fields. Kyler and James Conner for a first, 2 seconds, and a third.
That's insane to be able to trade Fields for Kyler and a first.
Now, here's one that I think actually might happen, but I definitely disagree with it. Kyler Murray and Rondell Moore for 103. I'm going to assume that ended up being Anthony Richardson in this draft. I mean, it could have been.
Yeah, no,
Bryce Young or
that actually
Stroud.
might be a good deal for the person getting Richardson from like if you look at the
Yeah, like
startup
a
ADP, that might
ADP.
actually be a profitable move.
Yeah.
I like Richardson. I would rather have Kyler than any of the rookie QBs this year.
I agree, but the fact of the matter is that if you're able to arbitrage, now this is almost a different discussion. Should I just not go into this? Should we get back to the over?
We could say, we do have another over under to go through, so maybe.
Okay, let's save it. Let's save it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not gonna get into that.
I know where you're going though, and I agree. Clayton Tune, the rookie, I think he's underrated. Frank, you say he's overrated. I mean, he's looked good in preseason so far, and he's free, next to free.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the other rookies. I don't like this. I have some Clayton Tunes. Speaking of Lappy, while he is asking for 3 firsts for Kyler Murray right now, which is pretty valid, but he came up with the let me just yoink all the mid-round QBs in like the 4th and 5th round of the rookie draft. And he hit on a couple. Like, if you're doing that strat, Clayton Tune is not a bad player to have stashed away right now.
You know who's been getting a decent amount of hype recently, and we already talked about his division, is Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell's look really good. He actually has looked very good. Stetson Bennett has been like, actually, no, we're going to talk about him in a second here.
I'm not buying into the Stetson Bennett stuff. We're here. We all say Matthew Stafford's underrated because, I mean, quarterback 30.
The price is dropped so much.
There you
go. He'd have to be completely cooked.
Stafford, yeah. It's just that injury would have to be actually like career ending. Stetson Bennett, though, he stinks. I don't know. I don't have anything.
I just think he's inconsistent, and that's what's annoying is that you see some of the throws he makes, and they're really elite level NFL throws, and then you see some other throws, and he has some big misses, which is not really something you saw a ton at Georgia. It's probably just because of the pressure of the NFL, even in preseason. But that's what's kind of been frustrating yet exciting about Stetson Bennett at the same time. Dude, the thing is, though, it just feels like McVay likes him, right? That he's trying to put Stetson Bennett in a spot where he's in line to compete for the QB1 job once Stafford is gone.
Yeah, but I just think there's so many.
Go ahead, JT.
I just think there's so many backups like in the league that could just go into Los Angeles and take that job from him. I mean, we saw what Baker was able to do, just flying in like no practice, like nothing, and showed up and helped them win a game under McVay. Like I'm not willing to say Stetson Bennett's going, like, sure, maybe he'll get like a fair shot at the quarterback competition, but I just don't see a world where he's that starting quarterback for Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Fact of the matter is, this price is a little high because it's starting to get into the 3rd round territory. I probably would ship off Stetson for a 3rd, just given the hit rates and everything. It feels like you're 99% of the time just getting a 3rd for free for a roster clogger.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, I think he's shown enough promise, right? Him, AOC, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, these to me are 3 rookies who, they're probably never going to be starters, but they have shown enough promise to where a coaching staff will potentially actually give them a shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, DTRs look good for the Browns, especially in the first 2 games. I don't have anything else to add. Jake's in chat though, and he is trashing on Stetson Bennett, which I do agree with. Moving on to Seattle, though, we have Geno Smith, who we all said was overrated at quarterback 22. And I think we could get some pushback here simply because, like, he's got DK Metcalf, JSN, and Tyler Lockett.
I think the price is fine.
Yeah, I agree.
It's more so like if I had to bet on it going up or down by the time next season. And actually, I mean, because he could have a decent year. It's just I don't think he's the long-term option there. And I think
Yeah, that was my feelings on that as well.
The issue with Geno Smith right now, and like kind of like Lounis, I think this is like a decently fair price. His upside is what Kirk Cousins was, a guy that you don't want to trade away because he's worth a first, but outside of someone really needing a QB, no one's giving your ass a first round pick. That's his upside. That's literally his upside, but he's putting up low end QB1 seasons. So if your team is in a spot where you really want a Kirk Cousins, or you have a chance to pick him up without giving up first round type assets to be in, on a contending QB team as your QB2, QB3 spot, I think he's a really good player to have and hold on to.
I think it's a fair take.
Yeah.
And
but even so, you want him to be your QB3 though, wouldn't you? On a real contender?
Yeah.
Preferably, yeah.
But I mean,
because if not, you have to pair him with a Mahomes. Like you have to have a top five.
Yeah, you would have to have like a Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts.
That's what I'd imagine a contender would be, though. Right. They would have that kind of, and then they'd have a lot of value in the receiver and running back position as well, obviously. But Drew Lock, we all say, is underrated. Frank, you sent a text in, that was this morning, a couple days ago, I remember, saying that something that no one's talking about, but Drew Lock has looked much better, improved, you said.
Listen, it's preseason. I honestly try to stay away from it because it's all bait. But I will say, I caught a little bit of that Seahawks, mainly trying to scout out JSN. And Drew Lock,
JSN was saucy.
Yeah. Dude, Drew Lock looks much better, right? Now, I'm not coming out here and saying that I'm trading my thirds for Drew Lock or anything, really. But this is a dude that is definitely being forgot about. And, like, he's free. He is a backup right now, so it's not like he's completely, like, non-rosterable.
Yeah, I think he belongs on a team, like a dynasty team, and things break his way or whatever. Geno Smith could get hurt. Like, he could be in that job for a while. I don't know. I mean, that receiving core and everything. I know JSN might not be ready week 1, but that receiving core should do them a lot of favors. So
I'm just really hoping he gets a chance to play another regular season game or two. I really would want to see, okay, has he actually progressed, or was that just another Drew Lock looks good for one game and then takes the bait for the next 3?
True. Feels like he's been in the league forever, and he's only a year older than Stetson Bennett.
Dude, and he was he was good in college. He was a relatively highly rated prospect, right? Obviously, he didn't get that first round draft capital, but the guy has talent.
He had a decent rookie season, if I remember correctly, too, when he played.
Yeah, people thought he'd be like solid.
Yeah. Now looking
shit show.
This is the one. Look, I'll start with Brock Purdy. Everyone knows how I feel about Trey Lance. The thing about Brock Purdy to me is he is just a pretty good game manager. Like, that's what his job is. He's the game manager. He's going to facilitate the ball to the actual playmakers and Kittle and Debo and Ayuk. I think what people say is good about him is that he doesn't really turn the ball over, although if you read the training camp reports, he had the most drop picks, and based on the training camp reports, he's throwing pick sixes like every practice. Which, I mean, I don't know how much to buy into that, because
I care more. I was gonna say I care more about the fact that he had the most drop picks when he played last year, rather than him struggling against an insanely good 49ers defense in training camp.
Well, no, it's not. It's like in joint practices that this is going.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Like the Raiders and I forget where they just played. So the Broncos. So look, I think as long as he's got the starting job in San Fran, like, he's going to be coveted, but I just don't see a path into where he breaks into the top 20. I know he's quarterback 20, I don't know how he goes up. So that's why I have the overrated. Frank, you can.
I don't know. I think it's pretty easy to see how he goes up. He's a really young quarterback, and when you compare him to a lot of the other young quarterbacks, like the Kenny Pickett's and whatnot, I think that there's a decent chance that Purdy can go out there and put up Daniel Jones type numbers and shoot up to like a QB 15 and be worth a first round pick on his own, 100% outright. Yeah, his downside is pretty rough as well. Like he's definitely a risky player to hold, but it seems like he's the starter right now. It seems like he's the starter.
Guaranteed he is the starter.
He's the unquestioned starter.
Yeah.
I even feel like it's like the Niners would really have to come out and struggle for him to get benched early on. So I think Purdy more times than not pans out and is a good investment. Dude, like he was if he puts up the numbers he was in those games last year, he shoots
that's
up
just where that's the thing though. I just don't think he's going to. I think.
Are we worried about the Tommy John at all?
I don't care that much about it. My bigger issue is I think
I don't know any quarterback who's gotten.
Roethlisberger got it.
Roethlisberger
that was
got it?
late.
Yeah, my bigger issue is I think based off now it's a small sample size, but to be fair, we don't really have big sample size of Brock Purdy. If you look at the game against Dallas, I think defenses have figured him out. I think it's going to be a problem in the actual regular season.
The problem I have though with that, real quick, Lounis, the problem I have with that though is that this Shanahan offense with both his scheme that I think is going to improve as well, because I was looking at a lot of these preseason games for the Niners, and I feel like Shanahan is starting to like get in the groove of like modern passing attack concepts, right? Doing all this switch bullshit from these receivers, plus the talent they have. Dude, to me, you don't have to be anything crazy as a QB. Just be a Matt Ryan. Just know where to fucking go with the ball and get it out on time and in rhythm.
Sure.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Dude, this offense is okay.
That's what I've been saying though. Like I just think like the 49ers don't seem that concerned with it, but I think like if they are officially moving on from Trey Lance, who we'll get to in a second, and that's just not the guy. Well, like I think you could get a bunch of other quarterbacks to come in and do Brock Purdy's job, and they'd be fine.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think like half the starting QBs in the league could go in there and do that. But
I think basically all the starting quarterbacks in the league can do that.
No, I disagree with that because where the real money is made is can they do it against pressure? And that's the issue that you see with right now Sam Darnold, right? And honestly, I'm going to throw back an O on Sam Darnold. I wish I didn't fucking buy him for a third in the second 20 league. This offense, if there's no pressure, if they're blocking dudes up front, then it's literally like playing Madden on rookie. You're just going to be hitting wide open Ayuks and Debos over the middle of the field, right? You're just going to be abusing people. But you need to be able to play against pressure, and that's the one thing that Brock Purdy did much better than any of these other QBs is against pressure, they were good. Trey Lance was actually decent against pressure, but he doesn't know where the fuck to go with the ball and how to get it out on time. So that's the issue there. But I just going back, you look at Purdy, I feel like he just knows the fucking system. He's got it down. He's got the feel for the game. He can play against pressure. And he's good enough to just make the standard throws. You don't need to be Mahomes. I don't even think Shanahan wants a Mahomesy type of player. He would much rather have that dude that's just methodical, getting the ball to where Shanahan wants the ball to go.
Yeah.
Fair. I still would contend that most starting quarterbacks in the league can do what Purdy does. I know pressure is tough on certain people like Sam Darnold, but it's just the fact of life of an NFL quarterback. Like if you can't handle pressure, you're not going to belong in the league.
I will
for very
say,
long.
if you put Baker Mayfield in with a good offensive line in San Francisco, right? They're like just beating people up front. He wins an MVP.
You think
I'm
so?
not even joking. I'm not
Okay.
even joking. And now listen, that's saying a
I
lot,
thought I
right?
was a
That's
Baker
saying you
guy.
could block dudes up front every game, which is like most
Yeah,
good
true.
quarterbacks should win when you do that. But yeah, he would.
All right, I don't know where that. I like that take. All right, Trey Lance. You know how I feel about Trey Lance. I just think at this point, San Fran just has moved on from him. I think like he's getting like 7-8 reps in preseason. He's only playing a quarter. I just think he's going to end up on a different team. I don't know when that will be. Shanahan was saying today that him and Sam Darnold will be rotating as the second quarterback for the 49ers. I don't know. How many teams keep 3 quarterbacks going into the NFL season? I feel like it's not often you have 3.
The Steelers did a couple years where we had Duck, we had Mason Rudolph, and we had Roethlisberger. Or wait, maybe we did do 2. I can't remember. I think there were a couple seasons recently where we had 3.
Okay,
it's not the craziest thing in the world.
Shout out NBC Sports because they had it up real quick. Last year, only 12 teams had 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, but you're allowed to now dress 3 quarterbacks. So does that change things? Like maybe they keep more quarterbacks on. Maybe more teams are keeping quarterbacks. I don't know, but
Niners rule.
Well, you're not cutting them.
That's the thing. It's just like it feels like you're holding a lot of value in your backup quarterbacks, which, I mean, you saw based on the playoffs, like you could use it, but it does kind of feel like a waste of assets just having those 2 guys that you like kind of riding the bench. I don't know.
They really are kind of fucked here because it just seems like they can't trade him for anything that's really worth trading him for.
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, what team's gonna, it was rare that Baker got traded last year, and Baker got traded though in like July, so at least he had like a training camp and everything to get up to speed with these guys. Like, I don't know how any team would trade for Trey Lance or Darnold right now.
I could see it maybe like thinking far ahead here. Next draft, team, like once the quarterback situation between free agency, like potential big trades, the draft is kind of settling. A team is like, think of maybe like the Bucks this year where they're picking in the middle part of the draft and they need a QB. Maybe they're a team that goes after a Trey Lance for like a 2nd round pick.
I don't think he would cost as much as a second. If you do it by like,
but I don't think that the Niners are going to give him up for anything that's not worth giving up. I think that they are literally willing to just have him sit as a backup. Like
if we're saying next summer, right? At that point, Trey Lance only has 1 year left on his deal, and they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option at that price. Like, what are you gonna?
Yeah, but it gives him 2 years. Like it is 2 years. No, but
at that point,
time.
At that point in the hypothetical scenario where you're saying like next offseason, you'd only have 1 year left, so you trade him that offseason or you lose him for nothing.
He'd have 1 year left plus the option though.
Yeah, but they're not picking up that team option at that salary for a backup quarterback.
Depends on
you have to remember, Lounis, like there is a lot, like time is a factor here because we have an entire season to play. It is not unrealistic that Brock Purdy gets injured and then all of a sudden Trey Lance could be fucking playing games.
Comes in and plays well and increases his trade. Like that's completely different. I'm saying the assumption that he's played 2 years, it's a 4-year deal. Let's just say he doesn't get to play the entire season. Purdy stays healthy. Next summer would be the last chance to trade him before you leave. They're not going to pick up the 5th-year option on a number 3 pick overall salary 1st-round pick.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean they'd have to trade him, and
they'd have to trade him next summer.
But that's what I'm saying is that like that draft around that time, if you're a QB needy team, Trey Lance is probably in your mind if the situation is still as it is right now.
Yeah. Denver was the one I thought of, like if Russell Wilson's still cooked. Because I don't think they're going to be bad enough to have like a top pick, but
They don't have their pick, right? Like, wasn't that part of the Seattle trade?
you won't need a first to get Trey Lance.
Oh, I'm just talking about to like replace Russell Wilson in the draft. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point as well. Yeah, I don't think they have a first.
But okay, tying this back into the over/under, I'm switching it to an O because I don't think Trey Lance really plays this year, and that to me is a problem because the more he doesn't play, the more I think his value sinks, and especially if he's relegated to this backup role, I think we could see a Zach Wilson scenario where his price dips to around a third-round pick.
I think he'd be more valued like Jordan Love. Like, I think it's better if he doesn't play compared to what Zach Wilson did, which was play and play poorly.
Right.
Because you do just have that unknown. Like, oh, he
Jordan
might
Love
still be really good. Yeah, I think Jordan Love is more what we see.
Did
so
he
I think
dip to an early third at points when he was a backup?
Jordan Love?
He had to have, right?
I think he was always solid in the second round because everyone was anticipating Rodgers to leave.
Didn't they like not play him 1 week or something? Like, wasn't Rodgers
really
COVID?
But the other thing too, though, is that there's no Rodgers in San Francisco, right?
That's kind of what makes it tricky. Because Jordan Love did hold some value because everyone was like, Rodgers is definitely going to leave in like with sometime within the next 12 months. And here it's like it's annoying because Purdy, he's not going.
Oh, now I want to. The thing is, so it all boils down to he gets traded. Is he a starting QB, or at least perceived to be in line to be the starting quarterback? Because that will increase his value from where it is right now. At least a smidge.
Yeah.
I don't think a shit ton. I think his floor will be like a mid-second instead of a late second.
I think
maybe an early second.
He would start for, off the top of my head, the Commanders. I think that's it for the AFC and NFC East, like right off the bat. Because I personally would rather have him than Daniel Jones, but I don't think he's starting over Daniel Jones currently. So I'm just doing like what an NFL team would do. I think he'd start over Sam Howell.
The Bucs, he'd probably start.
Yeah, Bucs. So the Bucs,
Atlanta,
Falcons could.
Atlanta.
It'd be a battle between him and Ritter.
Yeah, I don't think he's not starting over Carr. So I think that's the NFC South. AFC South, I think he could challenge Tannehill. I think just Tannehill is gone.
The writing is on the wall. When Tannehill goes, he could compete.
Yeah, you've drafted QBs in multiple years. Like, clearly you're not thrilled with Tannehill. I just don't know if he'd start with over Tannehill right away. They just move on from him. That's it for the AFC South. AFC North, I think he's better than Jordan Love, although I don't know if that's what's going to happen. Jared Goff looked good, so I'm not going to write him off. Fields fine. Kirk Cousins, no. AFC North I like him more than Kenny Pickett. Whether or not the Steelers would do that, I don't know. That's really it for the AFC North. Then you go out to the West.
He already beat out Jimmy G once.
Yeah, the Raiders.
Can you imagine if you're Jimmy G?
Following you. Yeah.
Dude, if the Raiders found a franchise QB in Aiden O'Connell, that would just be so fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Look, Jimmy G's not that guy though, and he's made a nice career out of not being the guy. So I don't have too much. He's starting a Super Bowl. I'm not gonna have too much sympathy for Jimmy G. Obviously not the Chargers, Chiefs. I mean, maybe the Broncos if Russell Wilson is truly washed. I just don't believe it. NFC West, again, is Matthew Stafford totally toast. Other than that, I don't think he'd start over any of those guys yet. Like maybe Geno, but he'd start for the He'd start for the Cardinals without Kyler Murray, but it's just, when does Kyler Murray come back? And I think that's it. I think that's all so I don't know, like probably like 10 teams that he would have a decent shot at starting for, if not definitely starting for. And then I'd say there's like another 5 teams that I would really strongly consider him. But yeah,
I think you need a team where, let's say, the Rams, Matthew Stafford retires, like that, or like you were saying with the Titans. I mean, Will Levis being there, they may not want to pay the price it would take to get Lance.
Like you brought up the perfect example. It has to be like the type of situation Baker found himself like in Tampa Bay. Like it has to be like that type of situation to a different team.
Well, I was kind of thinking of it like a Carson Wentz scenario where a team is like, oh, we're going to trade for a guy with the chance, or maybe it would be more of like a Drew Lock to Seattle where they bring in a vet and trade for the young guy to compete for the starting job. I think that's the scenario that's most likely to happen. So
yeah, wherever he goes, it's going to be some kind of.
Yeah, it would be like him against a Baker, right? Like next season, something like that.
Yeah.
Both underrated quarterbacks, if you ask me.
Let's
Yeah, that was a lot of QB talk. I don't think we're going to have nearly as much time as that on other.
The first 2 teams running backs don't really move me.
I think James Conner is just underrated simply because he's the unquestioned starter. I'm going to see
here's the thing with James Conner though. It's going to be low scoring. But Conner might come back like week 5 6.
Yeah. He's I think second in the league in touchdowns. Not counting quarterbacks.
I wrote but I think it's a fair price.
Cam Akers is a weird one to me because the Achilles and everything. Like, is he back? I don't know. Zach Evans, I kind of like in case Kyler's not. I'm out on the Seattle running backs.
I like Kenneth Walker, RB12. Yeah.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell's a good backup, I'll say. So I'll say he's underrated.
I'll change my CMC one to you. I could see him being RB3 next year, but like I'm looking more actually like the number 6,500 where I think, yeah.
I'm surprised that I'm putting a U next to Kenneth Walker. I think that this is a little bit of an overreaction to the Zach Charbonnet pickup. Because I've been pretty adamant anti Kenneth Walker, but this price tag, given the current running back landscape, seems a little bit nice.
How good he was as a rookie, him being outside of the top 10 was surprising to me. I thought he'd be like 8
right, exactly, because he's one of the only young running backs that you just know is going to be on that team getting carries. As of right now, like, because you compare him to like a J.K. Dobbins, right? Like, Dobbins, you don't know what the fuck is happening. And the price is really not that crazy between these two players now at this valuation.
I still think I might like Dobbins more. Kenneth Walker, I think he's okay.
I've always been a Dobbins shooter. I don't know, just like the injuries now it's getting annoying with Dobbins.
I don't know, dude. I think Kenneth Walker at this price is a pretty good, like, if I wanted to build a hero running back team around a nice young running back, I could do like I could definitely see myself talking myself into doing this with Kenneth Walker instead of waiting for like a Najee and risking a Najee, because Kenneth Walker just looked way better than Najee kind of did. Like last year, Najee had a rough season.
Look, my issue with Kenneth Walker, and I think I'm playing the narrative game here, but he's got the groin injury. He's been announced week to week. I just think the more you let Zach Charbonnet build up steam, I just see this team as a running back by committee, albeit a very good running back by committee. But for running back 12 prices, it's just not exciting for me. I'd rather pivot to probably a receiver.
All right, going on to the Niners. I mean, we're all in agreement that the top two running backs are just
I almost said overrated for Elijah Mitchell, but just knowing Christian McCaffrey's injury concerns and how I feel like this backfield's going to be managed.
Elijah Mitchell was an easy underrated for me.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a solid workload regardless of CMC being healthy or not.
Well, I think another thing to consider is that like you compare Elijah Mitchell and what he's done in the league compared to a lot of the backups that are higher priced than him. It's just like too big of a gap, right?
Yeah.
So you think of someone, and I like this player, but AJ Dillon. I guess it's because AJ Dillon seems to be like the guy in line to like own the backfield in the future. But if you talk about right now production, I mean, there's a pretty darn good chance that Elijah Mitchell outproduces AJ Dillon this year. Maybe not. No, that might just be complete bullshit. Now that I'm thinking about it.
No, I was about to.
Hey, could.
I don't think it's complete. I was about to tell you I think it's going to be close between them two.
That Packers offense.
When you also consider like how many scoring opportunities between the two offenses there's going to be.
I think it will rely on CMC getting hurt.
No, I just think they'll.
I think he also relies on how good Jordan Love is. Like if it's like
it's true. If that Packers offense fucking sucks, then it's going to be rough for everyone.
That's what I'm saying. Where like sure AJ Dillon might get like more touches, but like if Elijah Mitchell just ends up with like 4 more touchdowns or something, like I don't know.
Yeah, it's the classic bait of fantasy. It's the Houston Texans theory. You're like, oh well, they have to play 2 receivers.
You're gonna get a ton of touches.
Let me get the Texans second receiver. Someone has to get the ball, and then you tune into the Texans game and you just see punt after punt. You're like, damn, these guys don't even play. Like,
yeah.
So that's why I say I don't think it's a crazy take at all.
Tyrion Davis Price, I think, is awful. Not in.
Yeah. I
didn't mean to put a U for him.
Like I think he's a dude that and the thing that sucks about Tyrion Davis Price to me, and this might be me being way too harsh on him. Even if Elijah Mitchell and CMC both get hurt, I still don't think he's like the handcuff guy to own. I think that he either gets usurped or is splitting carries in that scenario.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Moving on to tight ends. We all have underrated for the Cardinals tight ends. Trey McBride, I'll say I used to be super high on Trey McBride. Now I'll say I don't think he's going to ever separate himself.
He's 23.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that separates himself from. Like, I think he'll be like a decent guy to have on your team. Like he'll score a touchdown every other week, kind of thing. Maybe less than that, but he's never going to be the like top 5 dynasty tight end. Like, and at that point, it doesn't really matter. Like whether you're tight end 8 or tight end 20, it's like a couple points difference. So.
I could agree with that. He's not going to be a dominant tight end ever, probably. Like overwhelmingly likely, he's never going to reach that. But that doesn't mean he can't be a guy like a Higbee.
More valuable.
Yeah, that's where. That's exactly. Maybe I didn't say that correctly, but that's exactly where I'm coming from. Like I think he'll be. That's why I've done underrated. I think he'll be decent, but it's just not that excited like I was prior about Trey McBride.
I think me and Lounis agree, and JT, you're almost there. I think all these tight ends are just slightly underpriced.
I would say no. Like he's in a tough spot, but no offense to one of those guys that I'll just keep betting on. This year might not be the year though for Noah Fant, just given what he's got. Oh, dude,
I think Noah Fant, and I think we should buy him in the rebuild leagues if we haven't already. I think Noah Fant is a great rebuild target because this dude has such an Evan Ingram path where he goes to a team in free agency and can actually get 60, 70, 80 targets consistently instead of being in this weird Seahawks we don't give a shit about roster construction landscape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely agree. George Kittle, I think is pretty underrated as well. I mean, I get that he's older, but I don't think that cliff's there yet. And tight end 7 for someone who was, kind of rivaling Kelsey for tight end 1 at one point. I think is pretty cheap for Kittle.
Well, what's interesting is that I was thinking about in some of my leagues potentially selling Kittle if I could get a first for him, just like a random team first. But the market quickly adjusted this offseason, and he went and dipped immediately under that first round pick territory, at least on Keep Trade Cut. Bulletproof ADP, he's still around there. But I still think he's worth a random first round pick, all things considered. You're a contending team, a contender first. Like,
I think he's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't think if you have him, you're going to get that, like you were saying.
I'm surprised you haven't overrated on Higbee.
I don't care that much about Higbee. I've never liked Higbee.
I think he's probably going to be second on the Rams in catches this season.
Yeah, I think Higbee as a contender, if you need a tight end, is a fantastic buy.
Yeah. Look at that receiving room.
Oh, well, yeah. I think it's an awful receiving room. I just don't care about Higbee.
But dude, you can I want to pull up Higbee's stats. It's just like you don't think he does it.
Oh my god. I remember in the semifinals last fantasy season, fucking anyone else who's watching can relate to me. If you played against Tyler Higbee, he's the devil. He fucking had like 8 catches, like 3 touchdowns on in the semifinals round. Like he was projected for like 6 points and went off for like 30 something. That's all I see.
We're getting stats on the screen.
Tyler Higbee last year had 108 targets and 72 catches.
Yo, yeah, again, can you do me a favor? Can you pull up that Tyler Higbee game against the Broncos?
Can we just take a moment to appreciate that Tyler fucking Higbee had 108 targets last year?
Dude, him and Baker.
Dude, he had his. How many targets did freaking Pickens have?
Him and Baker were cooking. Cooper Kupp got hurt, and they were going off.
Pickens had 84 targets. Like, Pickens is obviously getting higher quality targets, but like, dude, 108 targets for this guy at that Keep Trade Cut price at 1,500 value at tight end 27. This is at least Waste Lord numbers. Come on, at least Waste Lord. 108 targets, dude. These people are you could go on Twitter, scroll through Dynasty subreddit, fucking bullshit, and you can see hordes of people circle jerking every random young tight end in existence, yet overlooking someone who just got 108 fucking targets for a 3rd round pick at tight end. All right,
yeah, JT,
over on Tyler Higbee.
You gotta do on the Higbee.
I pulled up the Higbee. He had 9 catches on 11 targets for 94 yards, 2 touchdowns.
In the semifinals. That sucked.
Dude, like a week and a half ago, I looked at Tyler Higbee's stats and I was just bamboozled. I was like, dude, this has to be an accounting error. Stat keepers on crack. This is no way this is true.
An extra 0 somewhere.
Let's move on to the wide receivers, though. Hollywood Brown, he's rivaling Kyler Murray to me for most underrated. I still think it's Kyler Murray by far, but
I think the top 3 guys are all underrated.
Michael Wilson, I'm not going to say it's underrated. Rondale Moore, he's still that weird guy where it's like, I think he could put it all together. I really like them coming out. I also really like David Bell, so I kind of 0 for 2 on the Purdue wide receivers. But I think Rondale Moore still has a shot at putting it together.
I want to see if anyone else agrees with me in my kind of spicy take later down in the receivers.
So with Rondale Moore, I was a big Rondale Moore guy. I still like him, but I think the fact of the matter is that Rondale Moore is just too high. I think most drafts, I'm looking at the board, and I'd probably prefer that 211, 212, 301 type pick that he's valued at. Right now, with the current information that we have, as prospects, I'd like Rondale Moore, but
I was just I'm pulling something else up for something I'm gonna have to bring up soon. But JT, you can go ahead on the rest of the Cardinals receivers.
I
No,
feel
I
like
have nothing
a
else to add
fraud
on the
on
Cardinals.
Michael Wilson because I like Michael Wilson, but I'm putting him as an overrated.
He's been getting a little
I
too
like
tight
him.
for me.
I think the price is fine. I just like he's gonna be starting at outside receiver this year. I know it's not really an exciting offense. Again, I still do think Kyler's gonna play like more than half the season.
I just think at best he's like the fourth target on this team because I think whatever the tight end's going to be is
That's
going
what
to
the tight
outsmart
end.
him,
Yeah,
and then Hollywood, and then Rondell Moore probably will out target him as well. The Rams, I think, if I'm looking correctly, the only one we disagree on, I just had the O on Van. I might change that to a U on Van Jefferson. Oh, I just heard
I
myself
think
twice.
he's the number three.
Van Jefferson is better than Tyler Higbee in my mind. So that's where I'll put the U. Seattle.
Van Jefferson's a little interesting because he's another dude that could just sneakily end up around 100 targets. Now, once again, like at the end of the day, even though he's on the cheaper side, you're still giving up a third for him. And I think that there might be better receivers to buy for a third straight up if that's the price. Probably like a Zay Jones, right? I think of him as a guy that's probably just going to put up better numbers than Van Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, he had 89 targets 2 years ago. Then last year he was injured. So I could see him around that.
Yeah, but it's still like speculative, you know? You'd have to get him pretty cheap to really like be targeting Van Jefferson.
True. Agreed. Seattle, look, I really like Jackson Smith and Jigba. But I mean, maybe this is foolish, but wide receiver 11 just feels too high when I think of all the other wide receivers in the league.
I don't think it is.
Who their quarterbacks are and everything and what's going on. Because
I don't think it's too high.
He's in a wide receiver room with DK Metcalf. I'm not too concerned about Tyler Lockett long term. Do you think DK is washed or something?
No. DK isn't washed. Yeah. I think so. Again, this is gonna be his rookie year, and he just had the injury, so his first few weeks kind of might be a little bit tricky. I think by like mid-season next season, JSN is it's non-arguable number one receiver on that team.
Is that a spicy take? I don't know how spicy that is.
He's priced like it.
Yeah, he's priced above DK already.
Okay, maybe not that spicy. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
I
like
agree, JT.
I don't know,
but... Sorry, Lounis, you're lagging a shit ton. I don't know if I should talk or not, or if you're going to start talking now. Like 5 minutes from now, we hear you.
No, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
The issue I have is that I don't want to knock Jackson Smith and Jigba just because DK and Tyler Lockett are on the team. Like JSN to me is still just like a fantastic prospect. And if you look at his profile and compare it to most of the rookie profiles of the receivers in the league, I mean, he looks a lot more like a top 10 guy than a not. So I just think he's too good.
I think he's gonna easily be in the top 10 after this rookie season. I think it's a debate of how far up he goes, but like I'm trying to think. Like, would you guys rather have right now JSN or Olave in Dynasty? I feel bad saying Olave.
I'd probably take Olave. And then
Olave, I do think I feel bad bringing up Olave because he's a stud, and I do think Olave is like a top 8 dynasty receiver, but I think JSN is going to be better.
I think JSN could be. Yeah, I think that could be true. It's just I think you're a fool to right now take JSN over Olave just because of the value difference, right? Like you have to pick Olave. He goes around higher.
He goes almost No, not almost 2 rounds. It's
I know. I mean, I'm not talking value. Like in terms of, I'm just saying who I think is going to be better.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's
Like,
fair. That's fair.
Yeah, my problem is that JSN's like separated himself from Addison and Quinn Johnston, and I just don't think he's like that much better. And I don't even think he's better than Quinn Johnston, if we're being honest.
Now,
I have him a tier ahead of the other two.
I think JSN you could maybe argue is like slightly overpriced, but I would make the argument though, JT, that Quinn Johnston, Zay Flowers, and Addison are all just kind of undervalued.
Yeah, that might be the case.
Especially when you look at, not necessarily compared to the other receivers, but when you look at a lot of these really talented young receivers as a whole and compare them to the running backs that they're being drafted by, it's like every single time I'm picking the receivers, it seems like in these tiers.
Well, yeah, I was looking at DLF. Ryan McDowell tweet out the rookie draft ADP over the past like 3 or 4 weeks, and Zach Charbonnet is now going ahead of Quinn Johnston and Flowers. And I just think as pure prospects, yeah, it's kind of
that is insane. You would have to give me something on top of Charbonnet to get either of those two guys if you're like trading.
Yeah, it's just the running back thirst. So, it happens every year that the running backs just creep up and up and up because people realize, oh, I need running backs for my team, and they just end up being bad prospects. DK, I'm still. It's a soft underrated, I'd say, for DK, because I think that's like an aptly rated value for DK.
I don't think it's terrible. I just think the price is too high for someone who, well, I mean, I mentioned role, and then there are guys behind him that I think I might take over DK. I mean, just ignoring value, like stuff that like shouldn't be the case, like DK's over like a Kyler. Like I think we can all agree like that shouldn't be the case. It's just more so Kyler being underrated. But even someone like I'll pull up. Would you guys rather have like DK or DJ Moore?
Probably that's close. I think I'd lean DK.
I like both those guys. You give me two guys I really like.
Yeah, I just think that DK is fairly. I think you can make an argument for guys behind him being better, because I can make an argument that I'd rather have Ayuk from a dynasty perspective. But fact of the matter is, Metcalf is a 25-year-old receiver who's put up like a 1,400-yard season.
All like literally, that was the next name. Okay, so that was the next name I was about to say. Ayuk is like a little bit less than 1,000 less than DK, and I think like I'd have them in the same tier.
Dude, I think a little bit of recency bias is hitting DK Metcalf, because you look at his freaking numbers, like the last 2 years were a little bit unfortunate, but that 2020 season he had in 16 games, putting up 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns, he could easily come out and repeat that season again. Like he could easily come out and do that shit. It's completely within the range of outcomes.
I get it. He did do that too. I don't know. I still do think.
But how are we going to look at these numbers and price it at wide receiver 14 potentially overrated? Yet T. Higgins probably doesn't have the upside that DK has and is consistently ranked in the top 10.
I think, have we done the AFC North?
Yeah.
I don't hate T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins is a good player attached to a good offense, but like DK Met, T. Higgins, dude, when has he shown to put up 1,300 yards in a season?
I think T. Higgins gets the bump because of the passing attack that he's on. If you're asking why he's up there. And by the way, T. Higgins is only 100 more in value than Metcalf. It's not like a big difference.
No, yeah, it's not a big difference.
At least according to Keep Track.
But I think it's really hard to say that DK Metcalf is overrated, given the fact that he's only 25 and he has proven upside.
I still think he's very good. He'd be in my top 20 dynasty receivers. I would just have him closer to like 18 than 14.
I flipped to no.
I think.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett might be getting there. He's just so good, dude. He's just so good. It's like the Keenan Allen philosophy. It's like
yeah, but Keenan Allen's like a dude who can put up wide receiver one seasons like forever. But like Keenan Allen like was borderline top 5 receiver just like 2 years ago, maybe 3. Whereas Tyler Lockett has been a very good, very underrated, consistently underrated wide receiver, but he's not in that same tier of player, I'd say.
The problem though, JT, is that what if you're just selling too early on him? I like because Tyler Lockett, whether it's on the Seahawks or not, I feel like can still be producing wide receiver 2 numbers at age 31, at age 32. Like around there is where I'd be concerned. Like, yeah, you're not going to be able to sell him for a second at that point, but
yeah, it's just at this point, I think it's a depreciating asset. It's depends on what Jackson Smith and Jig was able to do right out of the gate, especially now that he's injured. But man, when I think he's going to be the third guy on this. I think he's going to find himself out more likely than not. Like I think he's the third guy on this team, and Geno Smith would have to recreate what Geno Smith did last year. Which do we know that's going to happen, or is it going to be Geno Smith old? But it's just too many ifs for me to be like, oh yeah, Tyler Lockett's worthy of the wide receiver 47 price when people getting drafted around him, if I pull it up, are Mike Evans is wide receiver 44. Now he's going like a round higher.
Oh shit, dude! Like,
now Rashad Bateman is also there. I don't know how I feel about him. That might not be a good person to bring up, honestly. I don't know. There's a lot of wide receivers like right around there where it's just like you could pivot, you can gain value, you could do a lot just moving off Tyler Lockett.
The only other issue I have with moving Tyler Lockett though is that I think he, from like a realistic perspective, is just a hard player to sell. Because if you're getting this valuation, this 3,000, which is around a mid-ish second, maybe like a 207, 208. I do think that could be a good value deal long term, and then you just go in and scoop up an undervalued type receiver to replace for like a 3rd round pick.
Trades involving Tyler Lockett recently are Tyler Lockett for 2/3, Tyler Lockett a 2nd, and a 5th for Brandon Ayuk, and a 3rd.
You like the 2/3 for Tyler Lockett?
I'm assuming the person paying that is a contender, so the first thing that came to my head was
giving up 2/3 for Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. I'm saying buying Lockett for.
I think we're talking from the opposite, like what you're selling.
Oh, okay. I take that. I wouldn't sell him for
the value. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I'm assuming whoever's getting Lockett is a playoff team, so those are 2 later half thirds, but whatever they may be.
The value on Lockett is all over the place as I'm looking here, because Tyler Lockett for 209 and 301 in this draft. Okay. Tyler Lockett for 2024 first. Tyler Lockett and a 2023 second for a 2024 first. Tyler Lockett and Tony for Hollywood Brown. Lockett for Darius Slayton in a 2nd in 2024. Lockett and Pacheco for James Cook. Lockett in a 1st for Michael Pittman. Lockett for a 2nd and 3rd. He's all over the place. Him for just 210 straight up.
That 210 kind of seems right in value.
I think that's a little low.
I was gonna say actually a little bit low, but probably like, I don't know, like 206.
Frank, would you rather have like Roschon Johnson or Tyler Lockett?
I'd probably rather have Tyler Lockett.
I feel like this round is this year's second round is a little bit weaker.
But once again, it comes down to like both the price that you're paying and what you're getting, and what your team is. Because obviously, if you're a team that is building for the future, that second round pick is a no brainer over Tyler Lockett. You can't hold Tyler Lockett. But when you're talking about like a contender, dude, I just can't sell this guy for a late second. Like, this is the type of player that I'm looking for with my late seconds, right? A Lockett, a Brandon Cooks, right? The dude that is not sexy, but I can pick up for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
And you look at his seasons compared to any other receiver, he's top 24 usually.
That's fair enough. So lastly, for the NFC West, we got the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, we all say, is underrated. He's been tearing up training camp, looks to be out of Shanahan's.
This baffles me, this Ayuk price here. How is he wide receiver 23? Make it make sense to me. It does not make sense.
He's wide receiver 28 on Bulletproof, too.
And every league, I imagine this fucking happens. The person that has Ayuk, you need to pay DK Metcalf price to get him.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at...
you have to.
Looking at Ayuk, there's not a lot of just one for... Ayuk for Pittman and Noah Fant. Ayuk for Jerry Jeudy in a third. Ayuk for Pittman straight up. Ayuk and Deontay for JSN. There's not a lot else of just Ayuk like straight up one for one.
Damn, trading JSN for Ayuk and Deontay, that's a nice little contender move there.
Yeah, I'd probably do that if I had JSN.
I mean, dude, it depends. Like, because if JSN.
What was it? What was the trade with Ayuk and JSN again? It lagged a little bit on mine.
Ayuk and Deontay for JSN.
I like JSN a lot, but that's good value.
Yeah, the fact that you're thinking about it makes me feel like the Ayuk Deontay side's very.
I just think Deontay's gotten way too underrated.
Yeah,
you're just really betting on JSN being like a top 3 dynasty receiver.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, in my opinion, I think JSN ends up being. When I say I'm high on him, I think he ends up being a top 7 dynasty receiver, maybe top 6. I think he gets into like that tier, like. I think he's gonna have as good of a season because I read something that like he probably won't be 100% from his injury until like week 4 or 5. But I think he gets up into like close to like that Amon-Ra tier, like T Higgins, that sort. I'd rather have him than T Higgins. I could say that.
And then lastly for the 49ers, Debo. I said overrated, but just slightly. I think we're going to see more running back Debo coming back. I think him and CMC are going to be used in very creative dual threat ways. So I think it's going to be a good year for Debo. I just think, though, there's more wear and tear on his body. He's going to be 28 years old after the season. I think while, again, we've talked about it before in the past, like it's kind of the problem with this. I just think he's going to be looked at lesser than next year than he will this year.
Right. Yeah, I just think he's a good player to have. I would buy Debo at his current price and hold him as a contender for the next couple seasons. This kind of reminds me of, there was a period that I bought Keenan Allen, and it's like DJ Moore, I felt like was fitting into this, but then he swapped teams where they're no longer the new guy on the block, and maybe they have like a slight down year, and you just get him at too much of a discount. Deebo Samuel should be worth a first round pick still, a late first round pick, and he's under that valuation right now.
Yeah, Parker and someone in chat, Parker, one of our friends, he made a good trade for Debo just a couple weeks ago. He snagged him for, I'd say, pretty cheap.
So I just think that most deals that come out to even, where you're giving a package of things for Debo, or you're getting Debo like 1 for 1, it's a pretty fucking good deal for you. All right, do we want to save this? Do we want to double up the division next week, or do we want to speed run this one?
I'm okay with either. If you guys, I feel pretty good about being able to speed run it. If you guys want to do it right now,
yeah, sure.
Okay,
speed run.
Yeah, Dak, easy underrated considering Daniel Jones is above him. Just get out of here with that. That's all I have to say. I mean, Dak, like so Kellen Moore has left the Cowboys, which does give me some pause about Dak, and how much this team will pass the ball. But now you're without Zeke, so you kind of have to rely on Tony Pollard in your run game. So I still feel pretty confident that they'll be one of the top passing teams. And at quarterback 16, that's very cheap for someone who is still going to be around for a while and be like consistently a top 12 quarterback.
Yeah, this is far too cheap for Dak. But once again, I think in leagues he goes a little bit higher than this.
Yeah, Dak is. Yeah, he's kind of QB 16 is way too low.
Daniel Jones, incredibly overrated. He's not good. He's not good. I don't know.
He could be good. I just don't want to. I want to get him at like QB 20 prices, not top 15 QB prices.
No.
Jalen Hurts, I think he's very good, but he's the third pick in startups, and Mahomes and Josh Allen are just not moving.
I guess that's where we disagree. The only quarterback I'm taking over Jalen Hurts in Dynasty is Mahomes.
I'm above Josh Allen. Yeah, I just can't do that yet. Because at least we've seen multiple years from Josh Allen of very high, top.
It's fair. No, I don't think what you're saying is bad. I think a lot of people have that take. I'm just saying mine.
Yeah. Sam Howell's a weird one for me because I really like Sam Howell. He's starting to pick up steam though and be at a point where risk reward, I don't know. I'm gonna put a U. I don't love it though at quarterback 25, but I think that's fairly priced for someone who's locked up the starting quarterback job for Washington this year. I don't know.
I agree.
I would be selling off that.
I think it's a fair price.
I'd be selling off this news, getting that mid to early second or potentially like second and third type trade.
Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a 5th round pick. I thought he should have gone way higher. The NFL clearly disagreed with me. So he doesn't have a lot of draft capital supporting him. And if it's a bad year, he's going to get replaced the likes of Davis Mills and, take most quarterbacks who get drafted outside the first round. But there's a chance that he plays himself out of getting drafted, out of a replacement getting drafted for him. So I don't know. I'll just say you for now, but I don't feel very confident.
So
Tony Pollard is running back 8,
right? I don't think that this price tag is going to be very realistic that you see in most leagues. I just struggle to see Tony Pollard being valued significantly ahead of a guy like a Kenneth Walker. I think that that's where he's more actually valued around. Which I think you could still make the case that he's overvalued.
Yeah, I did not know that was the case for Tony Pollard. Looking at the backups, Deuce Vaughn is just Kinder Girl JT might be out here, but he's tall. He's small.
These backup running backs for Dallas look. I mean, other than Deuce Vaughn, who's looked good, the backups suck. It looks like for Dallas. I thought a guy like Malik Davis could be interesting. He's not done really anything to even prove that he can get the fucking ball, let alone like.
I think the Athletic though just came out with a report that he should be the backup.
Who, Deuce Vaughn?
No, Malik Davis.
This is what's annoying about Tony Pollard's valuation, and the market is reflecting this. We all can agree that Tony Pollard is not as talented as some of the running backs that are ranked around him from a pure running perspective, but his victim of circumstance is ridiculous.
Yeah.
he's going to go crazy, and he does have some juice. I'm not saying he's like bad or anything. I just don't think he's like a legit top 10 dynasty running back kind of guy.
Yeah, agreed. That's the Dallas backfield. We all said Saquon's underrated. Frank even went so far as to say that he's the 2/3.
He's a great hero RB type player.
Mm-hmm. Eric Gray, we don't care about. Eagles, DeAndre Swift. Running back 27 feels pretty underrated for someone that catches a bunch of passes.
Yeah, so pretty much the read I've gotten, because I follow a bunch of Eagles beat reporters just as like being a fan. It's been kind of 1A, 1B, Swift, Gainwell, then Penny after them with first team reps.
Okay. I still don't really care about Gainwell. I like Penny, but not as much now that DeAndre Swift's there. Washington, we all have the O on Brian Robinson. It seems like him and Antonio Gibson are like basically splitting work.
They
split
preseason. This preseason with the first team offense, and I'm guessing the same with you guys. Just thinking Antonio Gibson is a better and more dynamic player. They're 24 and 25 years old. I just think Gibson's better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling on these kinds of guys because I do like Brian Robinson, but at the same time, that price seems a little bit high. Like when you compare him to someone like Rashad Penny, man, I'm not really convinced that Brian Robinson's that much better than Rashad Penny.
Yeah. I don't think so either.
I liked Brian Robinson as a prospect so much. He just looked really rough last season at parts.
I don't think he's like bad. I'm just like, meh.
Because once again, like this, I don't actually think is a real reflection of what you see in most leagues. I think right now, based off of the hype, Antonio Gibson is priced higher than Brian Robinson.
I would assume so too. Like I think if startup drafts happening right now, I think Antonio Gibson goes ahead of him.
Right, and if you were to do a Twitter poll, I think Antonio Gibson wins that. If you were just to ask who wins straight up,
I agree. I think he's like also easily the more dynamic receiver. I even think he's the better runner. But
I'm throwing a U on Chris Rodriguez. I kind of like Chris Rodriguez.
I don't know about him.
I was gonna say I have to give a take.
Luke Schoonmaker, I think, is the guy to own out of this Dallas tight end group. Decent prospect out of Michigan. Team likes to pass a lot. I don't like Jake Ferguson. Also, that is part of the.
Frank, you were dying on this hill.
What?
Waller.
Well, I think now he's definitely overvalued, but I don't know. I'm just gonna die on my hill.
I think he's in line for a big season on the Giants.
It's what it fucking looks like. I'll give you that.
Dallas Goedert as tight end 6 seems overrated to me, but then the actual keep trade cut points of like 3,900, I feel like that's fine. Especially
for like a tight end that's like, there's so very few reliable tight ends. High scoring offense. He's going to be third in targets. I like Dallas Goedert a lot.
Yeah, like he's in the. Honestly, we should rename the Mixon paradox the fucking Goddard paradox because I feel like he's the most impossible to move player from both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't like Cole Turner?
I think Logan Thomas ends up outproducing him this season.
Yeah, I just don't think any of these Washington tight ends are going to matter.
But I think whoever the tight end that produces the most is like. Well, their top 3 receivers are easily going to have more yards and touchdowns and catches between McLaurin, Curtis, and Dotson. Which Dotson has looked good, by the way, but we'll get into him.
CD at wide receiver 4 feels right, but he's a first round startup pick, and that's kind of where I draw the line on CD.
Same. I think I'm writing O, but I think that price is fair. He's
Brandon Cooks is probably the second wide receiver in a pass happy offense. I'll take Brandon Cooks at that price.
You guys both think Gallup's overrated at 1,900?
Yeah, I think he's kind of just lost a step at this point.
Yeah, the ACL.
Which feels mean for a 27-year-old, but I don't think it's the same Gallup that I saw.
1,900 is just really low for me.
He's annoying to me because I don't really want to hold him on my team. I feel like he's a waste of a roster spot, but he does have. I mean, he's a guy who's put up 1,000 yards before, right? Like, how many other players can say that? You give him another year off the ACL or whatever the fuck injury he had. Apparently, that's a thing where like it's the second year, not the year after. But
that's true.
I mean, we'll see if he can put it to the test. I just like Hyatt a lot, so I'm going to put the U next to him. I think he's a really good player. And then lastly, from what it looks like out of the Giants, I think that Slayton, Campbell, Hodgins, those are the guys right now that have been in that first team rotation. Is Wandale not playing? Is that what's going on there? Is that what
let me look that up. Wandale Robinson.
I think he might be on the PUP.
Yeah, he started running routes on he was on the PUP, but he started to run routes.
That's what I was about to say. I think he's like just coming back from injury.
Right. I might just re-roll the second if I could on Wandale, mass offer him out.
It's a weird one because it's a small sample size, but he did have a bunch of targets in that small sample size. It's a weird wide receiving room.
Right. I'm just not. I just would probably be more comfortable re-rolling the second rounder. Because I think that especially with the camp time and early in the season, one of Slayton, Campbell, Hodgins is going to be good. I think my bet is actually on Slayton. And the fact that you can get him as like the wide receiver 5 on this team, I think he's one of the most underrated players in Dynasty.
Between the 3 you listed, I'll go Hodgins, but I don't blame you for picking Slayton.
To use Lounis's word in talent, I just think Wandale Robinson blows those guys out of the water in talent, and I think he's going to.
I agree.
Whether I don't know how long it takes, but I think he's going to be top dog at some point this season.
Here's the issue, though.
Yes.
I see Slayton comes out and is able to put up 740 yards, 750 yards, and then another 724-yard season last year, where I feel like he was only getting in the groove in parts. Like
I just don't think it. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't know, man.
Hodgins all the way more, and that's just the receivers. Never mind Darren Waller.
We definitely were able to
at the 4th round price. I feel like I'm looking at a player that if it clicks for a full, because I feel like in any of these seasons that he's had, his rookie year probably clicked the most. It was only for half a year, right? 2020, very like meh. That Giants team, I'm pretty sure that year was just dog shit, right? It was complete terrible.
Would you rather have him or Gallup?
I'd rather have Slayton. Like last year, once again, he didn't like put it together for a full year. If we can get Darius Slayton to actually be involved in the offense for a full year, I think he can be like a 900-yard kind of guy. He can put up a 900-yard season. And for this price is pretty fucking nice. That's a pretty good get. That's a flex player.
Yeah, I don't think he's putting it together.
I might be scraping nickels a little bit there, but
yeah, I just don't think he's putting it together. It's the problem. Eagles.
So
AJ Brown, I think
Smith,
I'm gonna flip to overrated.
Devontae Smith, I think, is actually underrated. AJ Brown, I think, is appropriately priced, but Devontae Smith, I think, is underrated. I think by the end of this season, their production's going to be extremely similar.
Yeah, I just
But
think
with
it's
both
pretty
having elite production.
with confidence, and I think this is a consensus take. Most people would agree this is probably the most that AJ Brown is going to be valued at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I think I wrote you. I think AJ Brown's a fair price. I still think like I would still buy Devontae Smith right now, even at this wide receiver 9.
This feels so. Calling it the Walmart version is dirty. I don't know what to like an applicable, slightly less chain store like, but it's like the Bengals where you have these two high rated receivers. I just think Chase and T Higgins.
Oh, you think they're a tier below those guys? I mean, I think Chase is ahead of AJ Brown, but I think Devontae Smith is better than T Higgins.
I think we're just splitting hairs. I mean,
I think from fantasy wise, I think you might get to, as long as Joe Burrow is fully healthy, which it seems like he's coming back and going to be fine.
Has T Higgins had a season as good as Devontae Smith did last year?
No, but I don't think he's played full. Let me check T Higgins stats. I don't think he's ever played.
Again, if I were to rank those receivers right now, I'd go Chase, AJ Brown, Devontae, Higgins, that's the only case I'm making.
Yeah,
Chase is obviously like in a league of his own.
I think this is the year though. I think Chase and T Higgins both finished wide receiver ones.
Okay.
Considering they're all healthy and everything, I think both those guys are wide receiver ones this year. I know this is the NFC East we're talking about. But yeah, that's just my issue with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. I just think, like you were saying, Frank said it. This is probably the highest rated we'll see AJ Brown for the rest of the time. Devontae Smith, I've definitely warmed up on. I used to be kind of a hater of his. I still feel like that's pretty high for Devontae Smith. I think he's going to get passed. I think he's going to get passed by your guy, JSN Lounis. I think he's going to get passed by Drake London. I think he's going to get passed by let me just pull up the bulletproof to see who else is up here.
I think Devontae Smith by the end of this season is like, I'm high on Devontae. Like, I shouldn't have actually put a U for AJ Brown. I wish I could put a C because I think that's just like that's his price and that's the highest it's gonna be. I just didn't want to say overrated. I could see Devontae Smith being Dynasty wide receiver 6 by the end of the year, or maybe 5. I think him and AJ Brown are good. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he leads the Eagles in like yards, but AJ Brown still has more touchdowns. And then training camp has kind of been a similar story.
I just think he stays in this tier.
That's fair.
Like, he's just going to chill around here. I agree. He could get passed by some of those dudes behind him, but at the same time, he's probably then going to pass the Tyreek Hills and, I mean, if he hasn't already passed those type of players in value.
Moving on to the Commanders. That's their team name. John Dotson.
Yep. So I wrote no. I think that's the exact correct price. I would have him at wide receiver. Like, if I would put a C if I could.
Okay. I think he's a little bit less than that. I think that's a fairish price for John Dotson.
Yeah.
Now, the more interesting one that I thought though was Terry McLaurin, because I was ready to
lower than I thought.
I was ready to put you on Terry McLaurin, but now knowing he has turf toe and that's an annoying injury for wide receivers, I'm going to put a no for now, because I don't know what this season's going to look like.
If he ends up being fine by week 1.
Yeah, if he ends up being fine, like I think Sam Howell is good enough to make it like I think Sam Howell is good enough that he's not going to hinder Terry McLaurin, and we know Terry McLaurin's good, so I think he'll have a good season. It's just that the turf toe is always a weird one for me. It's kind of like how Jake is with Bliss Frank, although I don't think it's like a long-term thing. I just think like in terms of a year, it could really hinder a fantasy performance.
I still like Curtis Samuel. I can't believe you have an O on Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, wide receiver 80.
Yeah, this is the problem. Because I also really like Curtis Samuel, but I think I do this every year. I put the U on him, and then he just doesn't perform to my expectations.
He was nice for the first half of last year.
He wasn't that bad last year. Yeah.
He was fine, but again, he went down again. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think he's going to DJ Chark his way back into relevancy.
Maybe. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Because it looks like this is.
Nope.
We're almost here. We're almost at the start of the new season.
Yeah, sorry about the hiatus. Computer was broken, but we should be good now. Made it this far. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you next week.